Right. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Siebe Bosch. I will introduce the MapWindow plugin for Siebe simulation models for you today. So, first, introduce us. This is something I did together with Paul Mims, who's standing there behind the camera and organizing this event. Let me first show you a little bit what Siebe is. It is a hydrological simulation software package that simulates, in this case, overland flow. This is Brisbane, Australia. I lived there for 1 year. I did simulation models of floodplains, and as you can see actually in the elevation grid, you can see the horse racing track of Ipswich near Brisbane. And here you can see a breakout happening where the water takes a shortcut. In fact, I compared this image which I calculated in 2004 with the floods back in, when was it, 2010 I believe, and that was looking pretty similar. That's always fun. So this is the type of simulation models we build when we want to predict maximum water levels, flood inundations, calculate the effects of measures we want to take before actually taking them. Simulation models like this, well, they cost something to build, but they actually you profit from them a whole lot more because you don't have to dig holes in the ground where they're not functional, for example. Well, this is one example of a simulation model. Now, I'll show you another sample. This is in the Netherlands, the city of Goes, in the south, and you can see the water flowing through the channels. Well, if you look at a simulation model like this, you can see it's very GIS-based. And hydrological modelers have used GIS over the years for a lot of things, and pretty successfully as well. But there's always a bit of a problem with GIS and simulation models. Because simulation models are not just GIS. There's a lot of additional information you need to successfully build a model and maintain it. So, GIS for a simulation model is one of the data sources you can use. But there's a lot of all other data, like if there's a pumping station in there, then it has a lot of, for time-dependent data, for example, parameter settings, which all don't really have anything to do with GIS. And, well, our efforts were to combine things and make one tool that can build an entire simulation model. Now, this is an example of a simulation model in the Siebe software of the northern part of the Netherlands. It's about, well, as you can see, 40 by 50 kilometers. And the blue lines, you see, the blue dots are actually measured cross-sections of the channel. So every blue dot is a measured cross-section. There are thousands and thousands of cross-sections measured. So you just take a boat and they cross the channel and they measure the depth, and then you get this information. So that's all metadata of the channel. It's not really a GIS thing, because you've got one object in this schematization, and it has all this data. How should I put this? I consider this in the simulation model as attribute data, as some table of information. So it's not really a spatial thing. However, the channels, how they're located, they are GIS-based. Now, as you can imagine, this simulation model takes a while to calculate. Now, my customer in the north, they wanted to have multiple versions of this model. Why? Firstly, they run this model as a forecasting system. So every hour, this model gets kicked in the ass and runs for well, a few hours and predicts 10 days ahead the water levels in the area. For that, you need to have a model that runs fast enough. But the same customer also wants a model that can actually accurately calculate the water levels inside the smaller areas. That requires a highly detailed model. Those two models will be based on the same data set in GIS. So that was our effort to build a tool that can create these models on various scales, one that runs fast and is coarse, and one that runs slow but that is very fine and very detailed, to build those on the same data set every time again. Let's zoom in a little bit. As you can see here, in order to make this model run fast enough for real-time predictions, we need to aggregate some stuff. Because in reality, there's a few hundred of ditches running through this area. There's no use in actually implementing those ditches in the simulation model. Okay, I'll switch to the other microphone. Sorry. Okay. So there's no use in implementing all the ditches, there are like hundreds of them in this little area, into the actual model, because the model would run way too slow if you would do that. So we aggregated them in these few points, and I'll zoom in a little bit further, in some kind of a dummy construction. So this is a short channel. It's only 10 meters in length, I believe, or 25 meters. And the cross-section covers all the ditches and small canals in the little area it represents. As you can see here, the orange triangles, those are pumping stations. So in one single object, you simulate the behavior of the water in an area. So I get to how you create this. I'll get to that later. But this is the thing with all simulation models. If you want to make it run fast enough, you have to aggregate data. And you've got your GIS data, which is awesome. You've got all the ditches, all the channels. But if you would literally implement them in a simulation model, you would get a model that would never run. So I think this is an eternal problem for every modeler. Now, what we did to solve this is we built a plugin in MapWindow. And here you can see clearly all the channels and the ditches that are in this area. It's really a very fine network. And it's great that we have all this data, but it would never run in a simulation model. So the plugin, let's have a look, where are we? This is what the plugin looks like, and it uses various layers of information. It uses the soil map, it uses the land use map, it uses the map with all the canals and the ditches, it uses a shapefile with structures, with pump stations, with weirs. It uses the elevation data. So we've got actually, that's the great thing about living in the Netherlands, you've got an amazing amount of data here. And we all put that as layers in the MapWindow environment. And then we created this plugin where basically the level of aggregation of the simulation model is determined by a layer of polygons. If you give me a shapefile with a huge amount of small polygons, you get a highly detailed simulation model based on the same data set. If you give me a polygon shapefile with coarse, a few large polygons, then you get the same, based on the same data set, you get a simulation model that is coarse and that runs fast. So this is the idea we had, is to make various versions of the model based on the same geographical data, and make one version that runs fast, make one that's very detailed, and everything in between. So you can select in the plugin, you can select an existing SOBEC model, Probably that consists of the backbone, the main channels with the cross sections, and then you can add all the area data and aggregate them to the level that you desire. So you've got shapefiles of the pumps, gemalen, that's a Dutch word for it, stuwen, that's weirs, you've got the land use layer, you've got the soil layer, and then you've got like a winter target level, a summer target level, that's typically Dutch polar stuff, because we control everything here in our water systems. Now, just a small example of what it would look like. So suppose that this is the backbone of my simulation model. You can see on the left side, you can see one of the cross sections. So there has been a boat that has crossed the river and measured the depth, and you've got the information of the cross section there. And on the right hand side there's one as well, and there's nothing in between. Now, we also need to simulate the area through which this channel flows. So the hydrological processes, there's water from rainfall coming in, there's, it discharges into the channels, there's a certain, it can rise the water level, it will inundate certain areas, and it will be pumped out towards the channel. So what the plugin now does, it will create this kind of constructions automatically based on a predefined layer of polygons. So here there were two polygons, probably one on the north and one on the south side, that the plugin found a location for to snap the construction to. Well, every construction consists, you can see the one on the south has a pumping station, it has a weir. So the pumping station you can see on the left hand side, and the weir you can see on the right hand side. So that's how this area manages its water. The branches on the south, they are actually the rainfall runoff model. So it's nodes that convert rainfall into the discharge into the water system. The one on the north doesn't have any structure, so it has an open connection to the channel. Well, and this it does this automatically for a few hundred of these areas, or even a few thousand if you like, depending on basically depending entirely on the polygon shapefile that you give it. They'll zooming in, so you can see for the pumping station, for example, that there's a lot of attribute data, which never can really come out of GIS, so it's additional information. And we try to merge GIS with metadata for this modeling system, and create a workflow that every time again will build a simulation model based on the same data set. So, well, that was basically my presentation. I was curious whether there's any questions.